In May 1941, as war consumed Europe, Britain stood alone. Its very survival depended on the fragile convoys crossing the Atlantic. But a new terror was about to be unleashed upon these lifelines. Steaming from the shipyards of Hamburg, the German battleship Bismarck was the most powerful warship afloat. At over 800 feet long and displacing more than 50,000 tons, she was a true behemoth of steel. Her 8 massive 15-inch guns could hurl armor-piercing shells over 24 miles. Protected by thick armor and hailed as the pride of the Kriegsmarine, Hitler himself declared her unsinkable. But in just 8 days, a handful of outdated biplanes would challenge that claim and change the course of naval history forever. This is the real story of the hunt for the Bismarck. Welcome to Eka Software, where we uncover the raw truths of history's greatest conflicts. The mission, codenamed Operation Rheinebung, began in secret. On May 19th, Bismarck and the heavy cruiser Prinz Eugen slipped out of the Baltic. Their goal, to break into the open Atlantic and sever Britain's supply artery. But secrecy is a fragile thing at sea. The ships were spotted by a Swedish cruiser, and the report quickly landed on the desks of the British Admiralty. Soon after, an RAF Spitfire confirmed their location in a Norwegian fjord. With their cover blown, Bismarck and Prinz Eugen made a dash for the Denmark Strait. Thanks to the brilliant code breakers at Bletchley Park, Prime Minister Winston Churchill was alerted. His order was simple and chilling: sink the Bismarck. The Royal Navy's home fleet mobilized for one of the most dramatic chases in naval history. Leading the charge were the pride of the British fleet, the battlecruiser HMS Hood, and the brand-new battleship, HMS Prince of Wales. In the icy waters between Greenland and Iceland, lookouts spotted smoke on the horizon. At 5:50 a.m. on May 24th, the battle began. The Hood, known as Mighty Hood, fired first. But in a fatal error, she targeted the Prinz Eugen instead of the Bismarck. When the German behemoth returned fire, its 5th salvo found its mark. A shell tore through Hood's thin deck armor and ignited her rear magazines. The explosion was catastrophic. A colossal fireball erupted, and the Mighty Hood, the symbol of British naval power, was torn in two. She sank in less than 8 minutes, taking all but 3 of her 1,419 crew with her. The Prince of Wales fought on, landing crucial hits on the Bismarck that caused flooding and a fuel leak. But she took heavy damage herself and was forced to retreat. Bismarck was wounded but alive. The German commander, Admiral Lutyens, decided to head for the safety of a French port for repairs, leaving a telltale oil slick in his wake. The Royal Navy was now in a desperate race against time. The hunt for the Bismarck involved a massive force: 6 battleships, 2 aircraft carriers, 13 cruisers, and 21 destroyers. On the evening of May 24th, the first aerial attack was launched from the carrier HMS Victorious. 9 obsolete Fairey Swordfish biplanes, slow, fabric-covered aircraft nicknamed stringbags, flew into the teeth of the Bismarck's anti-aircraft fire. 1 torpedo hit the ship's thick armor belt, causing only minor damage, but the hunt was far from over. For 31 agonizing hours, the Bismarck vanished from British radar, a ghost in the vast Atlantic. Then, on May 26th, a stroke of luck. A Catalina flying boat spotted the oil trail, pinpointing the battleship's position. The carrier HMS Ark Royal, steaming up from Gibraltar, was now in range, but the weather had turned vicious. A gale was raging, with 50-knot winds and waves towering up to 60 feet. The carrier was pitching violently, making any flight operation seem impossible. Against all odds, 15 swordfish took off from Ark Royal's heaving deck. The first wave nearly ended in disaster when they mistakenly attacked a British cruiser. Luckily, their faulty torpedoes detonated harmlessly in the rough seas. The pilots returned, rearmed with reliable contact torpedoes, and launched again into the stormy dusk. This was the moment of truth. The swordfish flew low and slow, confounding the Bismarck's advanced fire control systems. Bullets ripped through their canvas wings without causing critical damage. Inside one of these string bags, 21-year-old pilot Sub-Lieutenant Jock Moffat dove through a wall of flak. His observer, Dusty Miller, leaned out of the cockpit, shouting directions to time the torpedo drop perfectly with the massive waves. "Let her go," Miller yelled. Moffat released his torpedo and pulled up sharply. He didn't see the impact, but that single torpedo changed everything. It struck the Bismarck's stern, jamming her rudders hard to port. The mighty battleship was now unmaneuverable, turning in helpless circles, a sitting duck for the approaching British fleet. Admiral Lutyens sent a final, defiant message to Berlin: "Ship unmaneuverable. We will fight to the last shell." At dawn on May 27th, the British battleships King George V and Rodney closed in for the kill. At 8:47 a.m., they opened fire. The punishment was relentless. A 16-inch shell from Rodney obliterated Bismarck's forward turrets and bridge, likely killing her commanders instantly. Her guns fell silent one by one. Over 2,800 shells were fired at the stricken vessel, with more than 400 hits turning her superstructure into a blazing wreck. To prevent the ship from being captured and to spare the crew further suffering, the order was given to scuttle the Bismarck. Demolition charges were set in the engine rooms. As British cruisers fired their own torpedoes into the hull, the great battleship finally rolled over and sank beneath the waves. Of the more than 2,200 men aboard, only 114 survived. Jock Moffat, the young pilot whose torpedo sealed Bismarck's fate, would later recall the haunting sight of sailors in the water, saying, "Not a chance in hell of being saved. The sinking of the Bismarck was a turning point. It secured Britain's Atlantic lifeline and proved that even the most powerful battleships were vulnerable to air power." This battle foreshadowed the decline of the battleship and the rise of the aircraft carrier as the new queen of the seas. It remains a legendary tale of technological prowess, desperate courage, and the brutal realities of war. If this story gripped you, please hit that like button, share this video, and subscribe to Echosoft War for more authentic histories from the world's greatest conflicts. Next time, we'll explore the carrier battles of Midway. Let us know in the comments which World War II battle you want to see covered next. Thanks for watching.